Can you believe it? We're already almost done. Well, this is the last unit. We already reviewed units 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is number 7 out of 7 for this year's AP test. Today, I'm going to be going over the first 2/3 or so of unit. So unit 7 used to be units 8 and 11, so that's what is here. Still the remnants of the old style. I'm going to be going over about 2/3 of unit 8 because when distance learning started, that's where we were. So I already have videos finishing out 8 and doing all of 10. So I'm going to tack those on to Classroom, and you'll see me with longer hair before I cut it, talking about that. So, and then you'll have a quiz like normal, and that leaves us with, I think, 2 more days for seniors and like an additional week for juniors. But for the last 2 days with everybody, we're going to be reviewing free response questions because that's literally all this AP test is this year. So we'll be looking at previous free response questions. I'll be having you write free response questions. I'll be having you grade your own free response questions based on their rubric, and I'll show you examples. It'll be a whole thing. It'll be really good. Use some strategies for writing free response questions so that we'll all pass the AP test, get college credit and all that good stuff. So let's just get right into it. If you go to the A.R. Genheimer website, drop down Motivation, Emotion, Personality, or argenheimer.com/MEP, Motivation, Emotion, Personality. Then here's all the stuff, 2 Quizlets, 2 terms, and the terms, teacher terms. I figure, why not? This is my cheat sheet that I use during class. Let's just use that because it already kind of has the definitions written out. I figure why have a blank term sheet when you can have a term sheet already with my little cheat sheet on it. So that's what we're going to do. I think, let's see. We need to go to, I think, about feel good, do good. Somewhere in here is where we pick up in the other videos. So we'll walk through all the terms. But this motivation and emotion. Starts off with motivation. Motivation is just anything that drives you or energizes you, gives you the motivation to do something. And that can be, they use the analogy carrots and sticks. Carrots are some sort of an incentive to make you do something, like a prize if you complete something, a reward. And then sticks are a punishment if you don't do something. The corporate world uses carrots and sticks. Like you can punish your workers for not working hard enough, or you can reward them and give them a bonus. Carrots and sticks, motivation. Instinct is, animals have instincts, humans also have instincts. When we're in class we talk about this, but it's just something that you don't even have to learn. You just, like, you're hardwired biologically to understand it. So birds have like a sort of a flying instinct. Mama doesn't actually teach them to fly, just kind of pushes them off the nest, and they sort of do a little bit of that, and then they fail and they fall slowly and don't hurt themselves too much, but they have like a flapping instinct. You can think of what humans have. We have like a crying instinct. You pop out and you immediately start crying. Drive reduction theory says, it's one theory that partially explains motivation, that says the reason we do things is to reduce the amount of physiological arousal that we feel. Negative arousal. For instance, if we're hungry, we are in a state of negative arousal where we are physiologically hungry, and then we eat to reduce that arousal and get the next term, homeostasis, which is a non-aroused state. So homeostasis, we feel just normal. And if we are hungry or in pain or whatever, that would be an aroused state. And according to drive reduction theory, the reason you do things is to reduce that state of arousal. Now, there's a lot of counterexamples to drive reduction theory, like you can say, well, then why do you watch scary movies, or why do you go on roller coasters? Because in those senses, you're actually paying money to artificially increase your aroused state by scaring yourself or making your heartbeat increase, that kind of thing. So it is one theory that kind of oversimplifies why some of explains our motivation. Incentive is, of the carrots and sticks, it's the carrot. Incentive is a positive motivator for behavior. Abraham Maslow came up with this little triangle. He was a humanist psychologist. It's the hierarchy of needs. Let me see if I can So yeah, I could just make it bigger maybe. Does that work? Hey, that kind of works. Great. Made it ugly. That's okay. So Maslow came up with this hierarchy of needs. It's written different ways depending on which one you look at, but this is the one we have. And it is 5 steps, and it is kind of, there's actually some memes you may have seen that are like the coronavirus hierarchy of needs, and then it'll have like internet on the bottom or something like that. But it is on the bottom levels are the most basic needs, where you basically have to satisfy the lower levels to climb the ladder of more advanced needs. And we'll walk through it. Physiological is the bottom. And that's stuff that if you don't have it soon, you will literally die. Now, you might notice something kind of funny on the physiological, and that might be, at least in his original version, some of the versions don't have it, but sex is in the physiological needs, which sounds like a funny thing. Like, if you don't have it, you will literally die. But more what he was talking about there was like the human race for reproduction. If humans stop reproducing, human race will die. I still think it's kind of a silly thing to have on the bottom rung, but most of it makes sense. Breathing, yeah, you're going to die real soon if you don't breathe. Food, water, sleep. Cool. After you satisfy those things, then you can start worrying about your health. Because if you don't have food, you don't even care if you're not healthy. You just want food. And then you start worrying about these things, and having employment and having like housing, very important things. Once you satisfy those two, which hopefully both of you, everyone listening to this video, has satisfied at least the bottom two, and you're probably on one of the next two. Then the third one is love and belonging, and that is seeing that you have like a secure social circle, that you feel loved and secure emotionally. And if you satisfy that, according to Maslow, then you can move on to esteem, and that's feeling competent in what you do. So if you're a student, which if you're listening to this, you probably are, you feel like you are a good student, and you feel like your work is quality work. Or for me as a teacher, I feel like I'm a good teacher and that I am appreciated, all that kind of thing. That I have respect of my peers or of your other students. At the top is self-actualization, which Maslow said was kind of the goal of life. Ironically, and kind of paradoxically, he said it's also not possible to achieve, but it is realizing the full version of yourself, becoming the best version of you that you can possibly be. He did give examples of some people that were self-actualized, very few, but and they're the stereotypical people like Mother Teresa, Einstein, people like that he said were possibly self-actualized. Let me make this smaller again. Glucose is the sugar that regulates your hunger. When it's low, we feel hungry, and when it is sufficient, we don't feel hungry. Set point is kind of like the weight that your body likes to be at. I have it written in here, which I read from somewhere else. Your body's weight thermostat. It's like some people are just thin by nature, and some people are bigger by nature. And if you diet or if you eat a lot, it's just kind of, it's your body's natural default weight point. Sex hormones. Estrogen is the female sex hormone. Testosterone, male sex hormone. Testosterone is what makes you, I talked about this in another video, but testosterone makes you grow facial hair and makes your voice low. Builds muscle, which actually steroids are all basically synthetic versions of testosterone. And then estrogen is the female sex hormone, creates the female secondary sex characteristics as well. There are 3 theories of emotion, and they're basically like a chicken and egg argument of which happens first. There are 3 variables that go into this. One is physiological arousal, which is like you start sweating, your heart starts beating faster, all those physiological aspects of emotion. 2 is behaviors that you do, like you react to the arousal or you run away or whatever you end up doing. And 3 is the thinking of why is this happening, or why is my heart beating fast, that kind of thing. And then three theories of emotion. James Lang says, and they basically say which happens first. If we were in class, I'd ask you which one happens first or which one, and then we'd come up with some theory of our own, and then we'd learn about these. But we're not going to do that. So James Lang says physiological arousal happens, then emotion. So it is one, then emotion. So your heart starts beating fast, then you get scared. Canon Bard says that it happens at the same time. So let's use the example of like you're getting mugged. So you're walking at 2 a.m. in an alleyway and someone puts a gun to your back and says, "Give me all your money." In all three cases, you're going to be scared. But it's just asking, why are you scared and what happens first? James Lang says, your heart starts beating fast, then you feel scared. James Lang. Canon Bard, your heart starts beating fast and you're scared at the exact same time. The Schachter two-factor, which is one of the most fun words to say in this class. Schachter two-factor theory is, he says it is a physiological arousal, so your heart starts beating fast. Then you think, why is my heart beating fast? You realize, well, it's because I'm being mugged. That's not good. And then you get scared. And this could happen differently if you're on a roller coaster, which, by the way, you could have the exact same physiological arousal happen. So you're getting mugged, or you're on a roller coaster, you're about to drop, your heart starts beating fast, you start sweating. But in both cases, the what is it, the cognitive appraisal, is very different. So if you're getting mugged, you think, why is my heart beating fast? This is bad. I'm being mugged. I might die. And that has a negative emotion. But if you're on a roller coaster, you say, this is good. I'm with my friends. I paid for this. Then it'd be a positive emotion. Polygraph. The way polygraphs work is, if you don't know about polygraphs, you'd think it works with heart rate, and they can measure heart rate, but mostly it works with what's called galvanic skin response. It basically measures your sweating, how electrically conductive your skin is, because the more you sweat, the more conductive your skin would become. I have a note here to myself, say show picture, but that's it. And it's actually fairly easy if you don't have any training. Polygraphs are not, they're somewhat accurate, but they can be easily faked, and they can give false positives or false negatives. There's a few, you can look up YouTube videos on how to fake a polygraph. A lot of it has to do with like tightening your muscles, which can give a, I guess, false negative. You can lie, but tense all of your muscles, and then it'll still, I don't know. Anyway, if you're in the market to need a fake polygraph, that's what you can do. Arousal and performance is the optimal amount of arousal for a task. So how much do you want to be hyped up on caffeine to do various tasks? And there's kind of three answers. If it's an easy task, generally speaking, you want high arousal. If it's a difficult task, you want low arousal. So if you're bored, and if you're doing the late shift, like a late watch shift for a warehouse, and probably nothing's going to happen, you might want to drink those Red Bulls to get higher arousal. Otherwise, it's going to be really boring. But if you're doing like surgery, yeah, you don't want to be tired, but you also don't want to like be hyped up on caffeine and shaking. You want lower arousal because that's already cognitively engaging. But generally speaking, moderate arousal is best. And that's that. Catharsis is emotional release. So that's if you take your anger out on punching a pillow or scream into a pillow. Anything where you're releasing your emotion like that. You'd think that catharsis would make you less angry or less violent afterwards. That would be a just intuitive, you'd think that would happen, but studies have shown that it actually can aggravate or escalate your emotions to do something like that. Feel good, do good phenomenon is pretty much like it sounds. When you are in a good mood, you tend to do more good things. So if you are depressed, you are less likely to do nice things for other people. And if you are in a bad mood, you are more likely to be mean to other people. And here I wrote tendency to be helpful when in a good mood. And that's pretty much it. So the next videos are going to be me with longer hair from like a couple months ago.